And one more movie review for this year I want to talk about, and I want to give you a doozy, a really good comedy to watch this holiday season. And you need to learn how to laugh at it. Let your heart be light this holiday season and enjoy good comedy. And the comedy I watched was a 1989 movie, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, starring the late greats Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. Absolutely should have had full screen on that. Absolutely.
I just feel like you need to do this.
I'm gonna try to send it up. See if we can get for the thumbnail.
There you go.
All right, get that for the thumbnail, or I'll do like crazy gestures. I've been trying to maybe if I do the Illuminati thing, I'll get like 500 million subscribers. Anyway, but this is a 1989 movie classic starring the late greats Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. Hear no evil, see no evil, hear no evil. I keep flipping it. Dyslexia in my head. They both got ice cream cones on your head. Did you notice their heads? Did you notice that? In New York City, one's blind and one's deaf. Richard Pryor plays a blind guy, and Gene Wilder plays a deaf guy. And your first impression might be, like, they could never make this movie today. And I say, why not? Why not? Because, it's not like they were making fun of these handicapped guys. All right. There was in no way making fun of them. In fact, they were quite interesting characters. They had very sad stories. Richard Pryor, he was hit by a drunk driver, and that's what rendered him blind. Gene Wilder had a scarlet fever when he was a kid, and when he started getting older, he started losing his hearing. And he was married, and as his hearing was being lost, he moved further and further from his wife, and after he went completely deaf, she left him. Sad stories, and usually people with these kind of handicaps have tragedies like that in their lives. Absolutely. And they acknowledge that is, but it's not something that keeps them down. In the very first scene where they interact in the movie, they don't even know they're interacting with each other. And they're both standing up for themselves. All right, Gene Wilder gets yelled at by some guy on the street, and Gene Wilder starts shouting what he misunderstands of a situation with this other guy. But Richard Pryor's walking by, blind as a bat, and hears Gene Wilder yelling and starts yelling back at him and throwing punches in the middle of the air, stuff like that. These guys may be handicapped, but they stand up for themselves. They're frisky, they're frisky, and they live in New York. You know what I mean? Live in New York. It's 1989 in New York. And Gene Wilder wasn't born deaf, obviously, like I mentioned, but he reads lips, and so he can communicate with people. Richard Pryor is blind, but obviously speak and talks at length, and he's hilarious in it. Look how thin he is. That one. Yeah. And so there's obviously a whole bunch of room for situational comedy, confusion, and stuff like that. And I remember I was watching one scene, and it made me laugh the hardest, where they're being arrested, and Gene Wilder is getting their picture taken by the lady with the camera, but he can only read the lips. And so Richard Pryor is relaying what the officer is telling him to do, and it's getting him to look at the camera. He goes, look at the camera. It's like, okay, so he looks at the camera. And then she goes, tell him to stay there. And he taps him. So he looks at him so he can read his lips, and he says, stay right there. And so he'd stay there looking at And so it goes back and forth like this, trying to get him to look at the camera. And then she finally gets the shot. She's lining it up. She's like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. Then he immediately turns to say something to Richard Pryor. She's like, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. And I was laughing so hard. There are so many scenes like that where it's not making fun of these handicaps. It's just creating this frustration and confusion of, dealing with these impediments in your life. And it's a fantastic situational comedy. Gene Wilder technically witnesses a murder because some guy tells him, read me the things off the instructions on the antacid. So he turns around, starts reading this entire label on the antacid, and the guy gets murdered behind him. And so, he witnessed a crime. And Richard Pryor is trying to get a job. He likes to track, he likes gambling. He always says, he's always like, I want to go to the track. I need some racing forms and some binoculars. And he's always making jokes like that at his own expense, and at other people's as well. It's like, there's one scene where Gene Wilder is like, I feel ridiculous. It's kind of like this scene. It's like, You look fine to me, you know. It's just, and this is kind of how the ice cream cone gag got played twice in the movie. Earlier, it was Richard Pryor just dumped it on his head because they were having this conversation about how Gene Wilder's character didn't want to, was scared of making a fool of himself. He was scared of being embarrassed, and so Richard Pryor just plopped the ice cream cone on top of his head, starts laughing his ass off. He's blind. He can't see it, but he knows exactly what it is, and it's still hilarious and ridiculous. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the lesson of it, is that, you know, we're all going to look ridiculous eventually, you know, one time or another. You need to learn to live with it, you know? And, you know, and that's a common human experience, no matter what your handicap may be. And I think that that's what's beautiful about this movie. Not only is it riotously hilarious, you know, but it has this really good message about, like, being friends. They get arrested, and they're in there, and they're talking to this district attorney or something like that, and he says, they got menses, what's it called, menses? Yeah, we got menses on them, so we can arrest them. And Gene Wilder's character reads the lips and goes, "We got menses? No, mens rea. That's it, mens rea." They got mens rea. And Gene Wilder, he reads that and he goes, "We got mens rea." He starts flipping out. He's like, "We got mens rea. We got mens rea, but we use condoms." What? It's full of stuff like that, where it's confusion. There's this one thing where Gene Wilder comes into a room and he doesn't always accurately read lips correctly. Some guy says, "Who the hell are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm fine, thank you." It's full of short little one-liners, funny jokes. And my favorite scene is when at the end where Gene Wilder's got the knife and he's going, "I'm going to throw this knife at your head. Stop where you are." And the police come up behind him and they start repeating what he's saying. "Stop where you are, put your hands up." And he thinks he's doing it by threatening to throw this knife at him. It's a great movie. Legends. Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder, legends. I highly recommend this movie. Have the great guffaw that I had while discussing this movie. Just imagine how much I was laughing when I was actually watching it. So I highly recommend See No Evil, Hear No Evil, 1989 film. 13 of 13 stars.
High praise.
High praise. Exactly. Stick an ice cream cone on your head once in a while. Feel ridiculous.